If you have a Stanley Cup, you may have been exposed to lead, or at the very least, Stanley should have let you know that its cups contain lead. A class action lawsuit was filed against Stanley asking for over $70 million. But what's the big deal if the cups contain lead? And how much lead is too much? How does Stanley even have to tell you about the lead? Did Stanley drop the ball here? Will they survive this? Well, I'll reveal my prediction at the end. I've helped hundreds of e-commerce sellers with these same questions, and if you're a product seller, I'll show you in this video how to make sure this doesn't happen to you. This is a first of its kind lawsuit involving lead in portable cups, which could be groundbreaking for the industry and may follow major lead cases like the safe drinking water cases, lead paint cases, and lead in toys cases. There have been plenty of recalls with portable cups and lead in the past, like Cupkin, ClickPick, and Green Sprouts, but never a lawsuit like this. This whole thing started when a mother tested her 3-year-old Stanley Cup bottle for lead and was horrified to discover that the test came back positive. And look, I understand why. As lead poisoning can go undetected and cause a ton of developmental issues, and cause major developmental issues. After this, more and more TikTok videos surfaced with these lead tests until Stanley finally admitted in January 2024 that the cups contain lead. Shortly after the lawsuit was filed, several experts have also weighed in and voiced their opinions that the lead content in Stanley Cups is concerning. Lead is so toxic, you just can't take the chances with it, one research director stated. A broken seal may not always be obvious, and a child who fidgets with the broken bottle faces a very possible and likely transference of the lead via normal hand-to-mouth behavior in young children. Lead exposure can result in serious health problems such as high blood pressure, brain and kidney problems, reproductive health issues, headaches, vomiting, anemia, fatigue, muscle aches, difficulty concentrating, muscular weakness, and tremors, and the list goes on and on and on. Wow, that's a long list. What's Stanley actually being sued for? Well, it's not about the lead itself, which I'll explain later why this is important. It's all about how Stanley marketed the cups. Stanley may have done everything right, except for one major thing. Although Stanley didn't have to let his customers know that the cups contain lead in its marketing, it couldn't intentionally hide it with its advertising tactics, which I explained shortly. Stanley never went out of its way to actually let its customers know about lead in its cups. It would have likely caused the company a ton of money loss. They only came out and admitted that there was lead after the TikTok videos, and even then they downplayed the use of lead, stating, "At Stanley, one of the key features of our products is our vacuum insulation technology, which provides consumers with drinkware that keeps beverages of this ideal temperature. Our manufacturing process currently employs the use of an industry standard pellet to seal the vacuum insulation at the base of our products. The sealing material includes some lead. Once sealed, this area is covered with a durable stainless steel layer, making it inaccessible to consumers. Rest assured that no lead is present on the surface of any Stanley product that comes into contact with the consumers, nor the contents of the product. The rare occurrence that the basic cap of a product comes off due to ordinary use and exposes the seal, it is eligible for our lifetime warranty." Wow, that's a mouthful. So Stanley says, yes, there's lead, which is industry standard, and it's inaccessible to users of the cups. But is this actually legal? Although there's zero tolerance for any amounts of lead in drinking water, this doesn't mean that lead can't be used in drinking cups, as long as the water doesn't come into contact with the lead or the surface of the cup. But there are strict requirements, depending upon who will use them. For example, if children use the cups, specific warnings and testings are required. Well, how do you actually know who will use the cups? If the cups fit in the definition of the children's product, which is defined as designed or intended primarily for children 12 years or younger, then they will be used by children. Consider whether there's a statement about the intended use of the product, saying it's intended for children, whether the product is represented in its packaging, display, promotion, or advertising as appropriate for the use of children, or whether the product is commonly recognized by consumers as being intended for the use of a child. It's clear here that Stanley intended for the cups to be used by kids. Just look at all of its advertising showing kids drinking out of the cups with their parents. They also have smaller cups specifically for children. So now that we know that the cups are children's products, what is Stanley actually required to do? Let me take a drink first. For lead specifically, kids' products can't contain more than 100 parts per million of total lead content in accessible parts. In order to know this, Stanley is actually required to get a third-party test done showing the amount of lead. Stanley is also required to notify the public in a children's product certificate showing the amount of lead. which is unknown as to whether this was done. There's one big exception, however. Lead content limits don't apply to parts of children's products that are not accessible through normal and reasonable foreseeable use and abuse of the product. Stanley's argument here is that the lead is inaccessible, even though they said in the rare occurrence the base cap of a product comes off due to ordinary use and exposes the seal, it is eligible for our lifetime warranty. And even though Stanley advertises its cups for adventurers and for consumers who enjoy an active lifestyle, such use actually increases the chance of damage and lead exposure. Also, the drinking water cups that have been recalled, like Cupkin and Green Sprouts, were recalled because the so-called inaccessible parts with lead became accessible. Interestingly, however, the lawsuit doesn't claim Stanley did anything wrong with lead requirements in its cups. The lawsuit doesn't claim that the cups themselves don't comply with the required regulations. What the suit claims is deceit in Stanley's marketing and advertising. Stanley's target customers are young professional women of childbearing age, as evidenced by all of the ads they run and the website itself. In 2019, Stanley launched a marketing campaign to increase sales and use social media influencers who were young women to do it. The Stanley brand skyrocketed from $70 million to over $750 million because of it. Never once did they mention the cups contain possible unsafe materials. Some of Stanley products are even marketed specifically for children, stating, "Easy to carry from the playground to the classroom." And on the Stanley website itself, another water bottle's description begins, "Keeping your child hydrated is critical for their health." The brand highlights multiple images of families holding Stanley cups on their social media pages, and Stanley markets its products as safe for young women and children, as it widely advertised it being recycled and BPA free, which is really just misleading. By selectively disclosing the materials it used through advertising, such as the recycled stainless steel and BPA free, Stanley misled consumers into believing that it had disclosed all of the materials the product contained. Stanley also advertised the brand as adventurous, but it knew that the seal could be exposed if the product was damaged from falls, hits, and other damage, such as during outdoor activities, hiking, running, and similar activities, exposing the lead. The lawsuit is actually asking for over $70 million in damages, as well as Stanley to disclose that the cups contain lead in all future sales. So if Stanley's allowed to use certain amounts of lead, and the amounts of lead were actually labeled with the products, did they have to disclose anything else to the public? It's not like they actually lied about the lead and said something like, there isn't any lead in the cups at all. They just masked it by highlighting the other safety features and uses. Let me know in the comments what you think will happen, and I'll put my prediction in the comments as well. And now, if you're a product seller, an additional layer is added to your compliance. After you determine that your product is compliant by asking what type of product it is, what it's made of, and who will actually use it, which I discuss in detail in this video, and besides knowing what you need to say to the public about your product, you now need to know what you can't not say, like Stanley may have failed to do.